matter. And the ascendant is on my moon in 13 degrees Cancer, with the moon in Virgo, 18 degrees, and the midheaven is 29 degrees, the anaretic degree of Pisces, with Neptune here conjuncting the midheaven in a wider world. Neptune is turning direct. So by tomorrow at this time, Neptune would be direct. This is a Saturn night with a Jupiter hour. So we got something left from this Jupiter hour, which also rules the midheaven. Jupiter is retrograde in Taurus. So this is what happens. First of all, even if you are working with astrology on a modern level, that is Neptune's ruling Pisces, Pluto ruling Scorpio, Uranus ruling Aquarius, still, I want you, for the sake of rulership, to consider Pisces having another ruler, because this might make your prediction more accurate. What happens when we have this situation? When we had this with Saturn, okay? A planet is going direct. We expect things to move more smoothly, go more easily. When it comes to Neptune, yes, because of the nature of Neptune, the Neptune direct and Neptune retrograde, well, with Neptune direct, you are acting on perhaps your insights, and with Neptune retrograde, you are forming your insights. Okay, so Neptune direct would be, for example, to pray for the missing people, to pray for people who are whistleblowers or spies, to pray for people who are in risk of places of corruption, okay, and people who deal with addiction. Neptune retrograde perhaps will be to consider what are the circumstances of things. How do we actually bring back these people? How do we create or manifest the world that that people that are in these situations can return and be included in the world that we are creating? And I talked about a lot about the refugees way before the war, and in this case, when you think about, let's say, with Israel, it's a clear example. Before the war, Israel was getting a bit radicalized. It was becoming a bit difficult to be, let's say, a woman that just goes on a bus and people care what you wear, what you don't wear, you're being modest, not modest. Everybody that sees modesty as a piece of clothing, of course, is not modest. From a religious perspective, like, study your books, but whatever. People that say this often don't have access to this type of education, so this is also a point to consider. But the thing is that imagine a kid growing, and this kid is gay, okay? Now, the parents don't know it yet, the kid doesn't know it yet, and so something happens to this kid, and he is in a liminal space. So, for example, going missing or being kidnapped. And we need to create, let's say if it is Israel, the Israel into which this kid can return to. And this is put in a bit of a veil of ignorance, okay? It's not my concept. The veil of ignorance is John Rawls, I believe. And in an analogy on the concept of the veil of ignorance, so let's say this kid is gay. Let's say this kid is neurodivergent. or trance, okay? Let's say this kid is a spiritual, having, I didn't even think that this would be a point, or yes, but if in my radical society, and even in a dogmatic atheistic society, which is a counter, the separation of science and spirituality or religion is recent. It's very recent, okay? It's only 300 years or so. And so, if that person is now a kid, and the place, the country, the region, the society in which it's growing is going through changes, and we don't know what the changes will be, this kid can get into liminal space. And in this liminal space, it's kind of like on this, so yes, this kid is born, is incarnated in flesh, but is kind of undecided. Will this kid be able to grow in Israel? If Israel is intolerant of gay people, no. If Israel treats the people who go through mental crisis with forced hospitalization, no, it won't be able to grow in Israel. Okay, and then this kid can be murdered while in being kidnapped, or he can die, or he can be in this liminal space. Let's say this kid will be trans in their gender. Yes. Could they grow in Israel right now? No. And so this kid gets into this liminal space where it is born, it is incarnated, but because the country is going through a revolution, it's going to change, it's undecided where will this pop, basically. So Neptune is governing those liminal spaces. This is where people go missing. And when a person is going missing, I talked about this quite some, it's not just about calling the welfare, calling the police. My darlings, they have turned to the police, they have turned to the welfare. Either they were turned away or they managed to escape from the place that they were being put. Many cases, not all the cases. Yes, Neptune is also planet of duality. So for example, for every person that I don't know, if for me, for example, I was going to psychodynamic psychotherapy, and the therapist tried to analyze me eventually, okay? Of course, there are also good things before this happens. It's not only bad or only good. For me, no, but I know a woman that also went through even more difficult things that I went through, and she has a therapist that holds her stable. And she's so thankful to her psychologist. So thankful to her psychologist. So what can I say? She found a match. No. Okay. And so Neptune is also governing this situation. Same thing as you will see. Some children are being kidnapped by the welfare and being trafficked. And some people, I met even a person that studies to become a social worker because she was held by social workers and she went through sexual violence. Okay, other people, they were put. Also met people who said, yes, they took me from my family, but they put me in a place that was also violent to me, and they were not doing anything with this. And yes, there are people that are no longer with us. Okay, so this situation, a person going missing, a person kidnapped, you don't hear about the person, okay, or it seems like a person is being two-faced. Usually when they have something to say that neither of you are ready to talk about. And this is why the person may seem two-faced to you. Okay, for example, when I was speaking with someone that they were going against psychiatry, and I liked it that they're going against forced hospitalization. I think it is very rational because the use of it became, unfortunately, to the detriment, and we are now in a place where it is being used politically and so on and so forth. But the thing is that I had also my profession, I'm an astrologer, and they were against also astrology because they're seeing this as the same. So they saw me as two-faced because I was liking some things that they did, but I've been honest about liking this and not liking that. And sometimes it was difficult for me to speak because it was like a trigger. So to own myself, I just did not respond. And then they pushed me, then I responded harshly. So they could see me like I'm two-faced, even though I was just being authentic. And so Neptune governs these situations as well. Okay. Right now, as it's stationing to go direct, and it's going direct tonight, tomorrow in this hour, Neptune will already be direct. We need to remember that Jupiter is also a ruler of Pisces. And so if you expect things to go more smoothly in this Pisces area in your life, keep in mind that the ruler is still retrograde. We had this with Saturn. Saturn is direct in Pisces, but Jupiter is still retrograde, so we are still reflecting on whatever Jupiter rules, which is Sagittarius, where the Sun and Mars are, and which is Pisces, where Neptune and Saturn are. So, if you are coping, let's say, with addiction, of whichever sort, and you've had like a relapse, and you expect the relapse to kind of cool down when Neptune is direct, or alternatively, you manage to cut something out of your life and you expect it for this to continue or you fear that there will be relapse. Keep in mind, Jupiter is still retrograde. So if you're expecting a change of phase with Neptune, keep in mind that it's still governed by a retrograde ruler. Okay, let's say if you wanted to do magic in astrology, okay, and the moon is about to oppose Neptune. But we would also look at the ruler of Pisces traditionally. You can do Neptune magic, the moon will be opposing it. Yeah, it's going to be squaring separating from a square to the sun. It's not malefic, not anything like this. But because the ruler is retrograde, it can give us unexpected results still. So for a magical election, even though Neptune is turning direct, and it's direct in Pisces, and we definitely want to have something of Neptune in Pisces, the magic of Neptune in Pisces. It's basically both of them are so connected to the cosmic water of existence, that precedes existence, that is Pisces, the boundaryless creation, the play of reality and illusion, the dream, and so on and so forth, which is so magical. Definitely Neptune in Pisces, but we want to wait a little bit, perhaps for next month, where Jupiter will be direct. So, what will Neptune direct bring you? This is a question because Jupiter is still retrograde, okay? But I can talk about it from a different point of view, which is, where the heck is Neptune in Pisces in my chart? What's it doing? And what can you expect, at least as of next month, to be changing phase? Now, Neptune in general is right now sextile in Pluto. Yes, it is still in orb, and the build up for the sextile with Uranus is already happening. So yes, only 2026 will have, and I thank Lada for this, the B sextile. Okay, I talked about this aspect. I think I was the first who broadcasted. I'm not sure, but yes. But I didn't know that it's called bisextile. So this will only happen in 2026. There are beautiful videos by Lada. There are beautiful videos by S.J. Anderson. I think also Dan Waits, of them together. about this, probably more people, um, but the buildup is already in orb. Okay, 4 degrees between the outer planets. Some people would say, no, you need 3 degrees, 2 degrees, da 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 da. It's already building. So I want us to begin to pay attention, especially as I was watching Lada and Filipov. Lada was talking about how the 2026 bisextile will be used both, she called it in light and in dark. But I think another way to look at this is there will be the uses that actually are in alignment with the nature of the planets when they are healthy, when they are in alignment. Okay, you think about yourself, you wake up in a good mood, well nourished, well loved, well accepted, and free and safe. Okay, what are the choices that you make in life? Okay, they're aligned with that. And so this will be definitely used to make some choices that are aligned with well-being. It's a bisextile, it's harmonic, you can tap into it. We need to tap into it. But another thing, don't know who am I getting here. I'm getting an energy of someone here. It's relatively new to me, but I know I saw this person. Maybe on YouTube. I'm not sure. It seemed like, yeah, I will remember. Well, it's very interesting because I'm getting energies as I'm speaking. At the same time, these energies, of course, can be used in a way where you think about the person when they wake up in the morning. They didn't sleep well. Somebody bugs them. They hear a noise. They hear this. They hear that. And they go through something in their life. And this and that. So, of course, what are the choices that they make in their life right now? Not so aligned with well-being, okay? Even with their well-being at this point, because it's making it more difficult to make good choices in life. And so this will be used both by people who are aligned with the choices that are with well-being and with people who are not, or are deprived, or are not in this place or situation. I'm looking at this from a practical rather than a Christian point of view, because Christians tend to kind of like make a division. There is God, there is Jesus Christ, and then there is the devil or Satan. Satan is Saturn, it just governs time. Lucifer is associated with Venus, okay, or with pleasure. That which is called the Jezebel spirit is sometimes can be a woman that went through sexual violence, and is not having this sexual energy aligned because she never got validation, never got to be safe from this. So I think Christianity, while it has a lot of merits, and I appreciate a lot about Christianity, is not really covering the whole thing. And so we need to pay attention to this build-up already. Okay, what does Uranus do first in Taurus, then in Gemini? Now, another way to look at things, Uranus will go over Algol, which is Medusa Gorgon. Okay, this is a very good time to replenish our conceptual and spiritual arsenal, because if you come to the transits of Algol with the belief that being sexual, being sensual, desiring to be safe from, from assault, from that, standing for your rights is somehow wrong. then you're less in contact with the wisdoms that Medusa Gorgon brings, that Algol brings, which is expression, protecting your voice, protecting your energy. Okay, and so if you think Medusa Gorgon was some nymph that was seducing Poseidon, and you live with all these sexist perception about who she was, then you kind of it's kind of like you're going to meet her and you're going to project all these things, and you're not going to even work magically. You're not going to even approach her, work magically and invite her in and tend to receive her blessings and her wisdom. Then this can be a bit of an issue. Okay, if we think that the Saturn is Satan, then we think it is the Antichrist, while Saturn is just the accumulation of our actions. Okay, we are now dealing with difficulty to keep our teeth healthy, even when we go to the doctor, because all of our water, all of our food, and even our toothpaste is polluted with fluoride, which we are told that scientifically is good for us. It's actually a byproduct of the industrial society. And as industrialization built it up, there was also the excess product of fluoride, and then they used it for the A-bomb. And you see Richard Feynman talks about, like, why do people have this ceremony where they brush their teeth everywhere? Who told you this is scientific? And he talked about cult-like sciences. Okay, and that was the best that he could, because we couldn't really speak about this. And after the A-bomb, there were no longer production, they were no longer using taking all the fluoride from the industrial society, taking this byproduct basically to use for bombs, and they didn't know where to put it, so they start putting it in the food, start putting it in the water, and marketing this as if this is like a vitamin that you need. I am not joking. I literally saw, I bought, my mom asked me to buy toothpaste, so I went to the supermarket and I got me like for children. Got one for children. And then I didn't pay attention too much because I didn't think it would be in the children paste. And then I look again and I see like the desired quantity of fluoride, and I'm like, this is presented like it was a vitamin. And I shudder. I'm like, my God, no, I have to buy a fluoride-free something, or to make you something, because and it's affecting our water and our food. You really, like, even if you know this, then most of us don't have the wealth to detour this. Okay? This is Saturn. Saturn rules teeth. This happens about 7 generations ago. We are the 7th generation. So now we get informed. Now the information comes in. This is not a vitamin. And we get the chance to do, and we are heading towards another industrialized society change. So how do we go through this? And because the technology wants to come in, it's needing to come. How do we do that so that we are creating wealth and abundance for 7 generations ahead, rather than, poverty, crisis, wars, all these things? Because I think it is prominent here that it's possible. So Uranus will be in Taurus, and then in Gemini, Neptune, Pisces, and then Aries, and then Pluto, Capricorn, and then Aquarius. So we're going to have the air and fire eventually. The 20, yes, I think just the air and fire. From the water and earth to the air and fire. It's a huge shift. Many astrologers have been talking about this shift of the outer planets. Um, and we are and I have to, like, this is a whole other episode in itself, because Aries in Aries, while she's still in Aries now, the outer planets kind of make way for Aries to be in an earth sign. Okay, she managed to do world wars from Pisces. Adolf Hitler had Aries in Pisces. Okay, and is, I think, Moon and Jupiter enclosed in her. She was benefically enclosed in Adolf Hitler's chart. You just to think about, okay, just the irony, right? Now she's in Aries since the 1920s, I think. And then she will be proceeding into Taurus. Okay? So there were two world wars while Aries was in Aries. Now we kind of like have a very big one. And then she moves into Taurus, which will be an earth sign. And she hasn't been in an earth sign in centuries. Okay? So the outer planets are in earth and water signs. Pluto is finishing up with Capricorn. Neptune's finishing up with Pisces. And Uranus is still in Taurus. And Uranus is going to go over our goal as any planet that goes through Taurus. And we really gonna have to purge that which is not in alignment with will and consent out of existence. Because then Aries comes in. Aries is the marginalized of the marginalized. And the outer planets will be in the fire and air. Needless to say, those are young. So they're transforming the young element. And it doesn't mean they're transforming men alone. Whatever transform yin, transform yang. So even if you take the most classic cisgender division of cisgender men, cisgender women, if something's transforming cisgender women, of course it is transforming cisgender men. Absolutely. And if something transforming cisgender men, of course it's transforming women. When men were fighting for liberation, for autonomy, for even the origin of capitalism, it was not corporatism. Capitalism, with all its problems, it was not corporatism. It says, if I nourish this land, if I grow something, if I tend to the land and this land grows fruit, then I am the owner of the land and the fruits, in the sense that nobody can come in and now say, this is mine. So this capitalism basically began by people who were slaves to the land of others, or employees in the lands of others, coming to basically own the fruits of their labor. This is the origin of capitalism. What was later made of this is another, corporatism is not capitalism. Capitalism is not about private property per se. It means I get to enjoy the fruits of my labor and own. If you think about communism, then I get the feeling this will play a part. Then it means that if I'm employed in a factory, okay, then I own that which the means of productions. I should not, if I am producing, I own the means of productions. There is no difference between capitalism and communism. As well as there is no difference between the inversion, the corporatism, and the all-inclusive state. Okay, the all-inclusive corporatism, the all-inclusive state. This is why I want you to understand there is more peace in the world than you know, just as there are more war crimes in the world than are being spoken. Okay, very few people talk about the Kurds, the Afghani people that were in Pakistan. This because such atrocities, they catch the news, and then many people feel like, oh, where was the Me Too in 7th of October? Okay, um, and and those things are also a byproduct of the fact that we are taught that capitalism and communism, for example, are two distinct theories. They are not. If you are producing agriculture, so the means of your production is the soil. And then you have private ownership. As I am producing agriculture, I own the means of production, which is me, my body. And this is what feminists who came from capitalism would later claim: my body, my rules. Okay. And the soil and the fruits. If you are communist, then you're not making the agriculture. Okay, you're what you are making is a product in industrialized society, and then it's the same thing. If I'm making this, I'm producing this, I own the produce and the means of production, and also my labor. Okay, this is communism. There is no difference. If you're producing fruits in agriculture, it's the same. If you're producing cell phones as a child in, I don't know, China, it's the same. And before you say, oh my God, China is evil, China is not evil. United States allocated its production to China, which allocated its production to all kinds of places like Ukraine. In Israel, we had 70% of the agriculture next to the border, as supposed to protect the border, sozusagen. And then in the way back in the years, Israelis would work in agriculture. But when we began to export, the conditions with globalism became so much so that we had to import employees because Israelis could not do this job as well as people from the Philippines or people from Thailand. And that is how we got a lot of refugees and a lot of people who were killed that were from Philippines and Thailand. And the governments just asked to not expose the names. But this is something that happens with globalism. Okay? And it's not just about the salary, it's also about the working conditions. And this is also how we get buildings in Dubai, built by people who are enslaved. Okay, it's various degrees of enslavement. But the fact is if we hold our high-tech companies, if we hold our real estate, and we don't look to who makes this, and we talk money, but we don't talk economy that is made for the people. With no people, there is no economy. With no people, no economy. And with willing consent, we don't overpopulate. There was an increase of labor due to a requirement of society, whether political, okay, we want more enough to have enough Jews, so we will not be demographically lost in our country, or to have enough people from our country. Astro Victor talked about Romania. Yes, Romania. because I get confused with Romania and Hungary. And I know that they are like, no, yeah, it's like, okay, I do this as foreigner. But it's like we want enough people that are from a nationality, and we want to increase labor. But it's also done because people need soldiers and because people need employees. Again, now with industrialized society, they don't need employees anymore. But then there are other considerations, and there's like very weird things happening. There's also the issue of eugenics, which unfortunately is not passed from the world. And so we cannot talk about this Neptune retrograde or direct without talking about what it is connecting with. And right now it's already building up to the 2026 bisextile. So if Neptune is leaking, Pluto is nuclear energy. If Neptune is something going viral, Uranus is revolutions. So a revolution in a country becomes viral. Also, scientific advancement, okay, scientific revolutions. I talked about Jupiter Uranus as a little bit before I saw the degree, in which it happens that it's the 1st to 21st, but more later it continues to the 22nd. But before I saw this degree, I said Jupiter Uranus, I'm so waiting for this. It's going to be the big O of scientific endeavor, because Jupiter is expanding things and it's about optimism, it's about traveling, and Uranus is about scientific revolutions. Jupiter is about philosophy, so as a person who is coming from the background of philosophy of science, what we study is the history of scientific revolution, and for this dissonance I lived, you know. Because I keep saying, oh, back in the days, oh, we used to make revolutions. And this dissonance of the spirit of the times and the nostalgia of the revolution was basically to rebel against that which was old is something that is just a part of my being in a way that I don't think I can express in simple words. It's a part of the chords of our soul. So, ascendants. Begin with ascendant Cancer. Neptune is turning direct in your ninth house. So, and is connected with your 7th and your 11th. 9, 7, 11. So you could be traveling with your partner for a conference to someplace where overseas, or planning such a thing, or be invited to such a thing. Neptune going direct is where your worldview, now with Saturn in your ninth house, you're getting a reality check, but it's also important to kind of bring in the compassion to yourself and bring in the compassion, because even if you need to be less accommodating, which some of you might need to be less accommodating, because Pisces usually is accommodating. Yes, it's very inclusive. And Saturn is kind of like, okay, we need to be less accommodating. I cannot afford myself. It's draining me. Then it's important for you to not be like completely cold or to bring lack of compassion. So if you have to set a boundary, set a structure to your giving, then Neptune direct might be dealing or might be showing you where you have been addicted to give. Okay, because this is the Pisces. You have been addicted to giving, to providing, to caring for others. And this has been an addiction of yours so that you will not have to deal with something in you. Not in you, something wrong in you, but something that you've been through, or like, something like you feel sad. What do? Okay, you get out of yourself, you give to another person. But there is also the tending to that sadness. And to the extent that is possible for you, perhaps you are getting the shift from if I'm feeling sad, then I will take care of another. I had my first sort of a boyfriend. He was Pisces as well. He was a Sun Pisces. And when we talked about, he taught me a lot about the process of giving. One of the things it was like when you give to another person is a juncture, or when you help another person is a juncture that you two meet, and this instigate a juncture in their life. You are not helping them; they are helping themselves, which is very important. Or say when I'm helping people or when I'm volunteering, then I know I'm doing this for me, which was very important. Okay, it's very good life lessons. Um, but this was also when I was in a crisis or sad. He said, yes, you need to get out of yourself. You need to give to others, and then you will get out of this crisis. Now, I'm not saying that this is not all. That this is not true. Okay, I have to admit that the times where I help people, sometimes I gain things for myself, including my funding of a university. I was trying to help a parent that had a debt for the national insurance. Okay, what Americans didn't have and now do after Obamacare, and and I was feeling lost, and it was a family person, and then the person said to me, "You file for yourself, file for yourself." And I'm like, no, who will give me anything? And eventually it led to that I was like, for the degree, I would do it. And then I got funding for the degree, but it all began with me wanting to help someone else. I'm ascendant Pisces, okay? Jupiter also rules my 10th house, and I was trying to help a parent. So for you, what I think it is if you have this tendency to help others whenever you are feeling low or sad, and this was a coping mechanism for you, now you understand that also helping others can be very draining. And perhaps is and it's important to set a boundary to your giving so that you can sustain yourself. But when Neptune turns direct, because Saturn tries to give you structure, it's kind of like, no, I'm not helping this anymore, I'm not helping that anymore. Pisces is very, very compassionate, but suddenly you could be cold to people, or you're so drained that you don't see, you no longer can express compassion because your emotional sign, then it can express itself and you're suddenly having an opinion, a worldview that is cold towards another. But Neptune here kind of exposes, when it goes direct and Jupiter is still retrograde, if you are in this situation, Neptune here kind of exposes that, hey, giving was my coping mechanism. And as I try to set a boundary, I go back to what I deal with, which is horror, and I need to get back out, which is draining. So you could become aware of this equation where I try to get out of my troubles, then I find myself entrapped in somebody else's. I get myself into a situation. This is yes, including your seventh, because Saturn he rules your seventh. So you might have noticed how this co-presence of Neptune and Saturn played a part in the dynamics you have in personal relationships, but also in kind of like your social agendas. The 11th house for you could be a place where you volunteer. Okay? It could be like a social agenda that you have, or a place where you volunteer and you're rethinking your social causes. And something that happens in the relation, you have a certain dynamic that you were playing out also in your personal relations, that could have created some sort of codependency that affected your worldview. And so if it's anything like that, okay, the savior complex, or looking to be safe, or looking to save someone, maybe you've dealt like, okay, I'm not saving, but I'm at least caring, I'm getting out of myself, it's helping me. And there, to some extent it's necessary, and then now it can be a flip side of like, okay, I can no longer give to people. Now you want to nourish yourself, you are reminded of all of the reasons why you did the other thing. And it can be pertaining to any sort of addiction, but here is especially affecting your world view. Okay, so hopefully it is that, and not that like you need somebody's help and so on. And here is to be compassionate, to set boundaries to your giving, while not changing the worldview about the people that you give to. Okay, you know, these people are like, I give, and then the person is still not okay. And then they say, okay, they don't help themselves, they're just parasitic, they don't want to change, they don't want to this. You are ruining everything that you have built, instead of saying, I am in a situation right now when I need to give myself and I need to withdraw back because I cannot afford. I was given to a point where now I cannot afford for myself to provide at this point, while understanding that this person needs more resources, and to bless them to meet these resources. And so, while it is still very difficult, at least you don't let this affect your worldview around the topic that you're doing or your social agenda. Okay, pay attention to this. I've seen so many healers, so many people who went through, let's say, the Chiron return, like at the age of 50, and they got, suddenly healed from something. And when they healed from something, instead of understanding, I was carrying this wound and I was playing savior complex to people, or I was caring for people because I was in need, and now I've ended this part in my life and I'm changing that. I no longer need to put myself aside. I'm retired from this service career. What they made of it is like, oh, people don't want to help themselves and they change their worldview. This could be you. So if this, especially if you have a carbon return. So here it is very important to keep compassion in your worldview, well, because you're going to need it towards yourself. That which you project onto these other people is basically because, and here it's not the projection of Scorpio, it's the projection of I'm saving the other, I'm caring for the other. Basically, what you empathize with is something that is also within you. And so, if you change your worldview and you say, this person doesn't want to grow, this person doesn't want to change, and I'm doing all of this, and I've had enough. What is happening with this later is like you understand that you are this person and you need more compassion. It's just that you need to turn to flip the direction of help, so that now it will be coming towards you, so that you are helping you and you are saving you, and not to change the worldview. This is what I think this is for you. Ascendant Leo. So for you, this is the 8th house. So remember what I said, listen to what I said about Pisces. And if for Pisces is the 9th house, so this is like the conscious worldview that they need to not to change their beliefs, but to keep compassion in their beliefs while setting the boundaries in their behavior. For you, is very much the same thing, but with certain resources to do with generational traumas. Maybe you are playing savior for people who went through trauma, or you're playing, or you're being the psychiatrist, psychologist, even because it is 8th house and Taurus is your 10th house. So you might be working or playing the role of the psychologist, the psychiatrist, and then Pluto is in your 6th house. What this tells me for you is that to deal with your ancestral issue, you are caretaking for others. It's not a bad thing to do, but Saturn has drained you. You are not able to do this for others now. You need to tend to you. Now, very important is to understand that this is not about them abusing you or them, let's say you were giving first towards someone, or even giving resources. It's not about them abusing you or they this or that. Everything you say about them at this point is true to a certain hidden facet of you, where you are, the trauma that you are running away from. Okay? So think about the codependency, some patterns of addiction, and how caring for another or providing even with material resources or promotion or drugs, if you're prescribing drugs, have been helping you. Think about the role of a psychiatrist. What does it do? Because Neptune rules psychiatry so much. It rules drugs and it rules consciousness altering. And psychiatry is exactly prescribing drugs for the purpose of altering consciousness. Okay? And so in this case for you, what does a psychiatrist do if you are the psychiatrist? Well, you prescribe drugs so that people will be managing to detour some process, okay? And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Think about when people go do surgery, then it also rules the anesthesia. Okay, so if a person has been through severe trauma, so that they will have a drug, so until they are able to process this trauma, which is what psychiatry, when it's actually psychiatry, this is what it does. But now it's no longer able to do so because you're told to prescribe beta blockers to people, which do nothing but kill them usually. But the actual, if you take the actual science of psychiatrists, like, hey, this person is having a situation where if I just let them like this, they would either hurt themselves or they would die, or it would be so much extremely difficult for them that it will shorten their lives. So I'm prescribing this to them so that they can have a little bit of something that gives them like a love buffer. So let's say people use MDMA, which is not fit for everybody. Psychedelics is not fit for everybody. I prescribe this drug. This drug will give them a bit of a love buffer so that they can go to psychology, so that they can proceed to do these things, and then eventually begin to process what they have to process, and so eventually be able to walk out, to step out of this drug. It's not forever for them to take, because psychiatry inherently is about crisis, mental crisis, health crisis, this crisis, okay? And the incompatibility between, in many cases, industrialized society right now, for the times of right now, in 2 decades, 3 decades, it would be different maybe, or maybe even more relevant, unfortunately. And so what is something in the society, or for people that were oppressed, then what is for the people who are otherwise oppressed, okay? If we talk about capitalism, we talk about corporatism, then we talk about communism, then we talk about the all-inclusive state, from the cradle to the grave statism. Then how is this affecting people? Or I give them some drug to numb this, because they cannot really deal with society, they cannot really change society like this, and I prescribe them this. Okay, of course, when you take it inwards, and many psychiatrists, they do take drugs themselves, then perhaps this is where certain changes are coming to fruition, and now you are rethinking your profession, or you are rethinking, you definitely are rethinking what you do, why you're doing this. And Saturn here can give it a bit of, again, a cold situation, okay? And many psychiatrists default to the, and I believe it is more psychiatrists than psychologists, but you could be both. Many psychiatrists default to, oh, this person, they unalive themselves because Saturn is also death, unfortunately, because they did not take the pills, they did not receive help. Okay, this is a trap. It is a trap, and up until you say this, you are not a killer, you're not a murderer. It can be that the patient dies and they try this, it didn't work, they tried that, it didn't work, or they don't try this, it didn't work. When you say this, already you are a killer, because beta blockers, what is being prescribed, they also kill people. Okay, so up until you say, oh, this person is very much like the Cancer ascendant. Okay, let's say, oh, with my first boyfriend, I had he suddenly had argument. He was given, he had a small change. He was given a person who was homeless, and the homeless got mad at him, say, why didn't you give me more? And he got mad at the homeless. He was like, why say thank you that I even give you something? And he talked to me and he was ranting about this, and I was like, okay, like, my darling, they are homeless. They don't have money. Okay, let's always take the presupposition that they are speaking truth. So they're homeless, they don't have money. They have way more things to get pissed off than you or I. Okay, right now it could be at this situation with this Saturn Pisces. At this situation, it's like, oh, they don't accept help. They didn't accept help. Why didn't they? If only they took the pill, they wouldn't be here. If only they continue to take the pill. There's a reason why they didn't take it. And this is your fault. It's not their fault. It's your fault that you don't have something good to give them. Up until you say this, it's nobody's fault. But when you put blame, now you understand that you're projecting. Because 8th house is house of projection. So if it is about drugs or drug prescription, granted that you're not like a drug dealer or something, but drug prescription, addiction, dealing with addiction, if you're a psychologist that have people that deal with addiction, or you may run into this when you are the patient, okay? And also you could be judging your psychologist or judging your psychiatrist. All the while, in many ways, if this is the case, you are also need to see where the projection. Okay, for example, if I talk about like my process with mental health, then I say I was in 2008, 2010, I was looking for the magic pill. I wasn't getting along in industrialized society. I felt empty at every workplace that I do. I discovered corruption at everywhere. I lost faith that I can make money from something that is productive to society and is interesting to me in conditions that are healthy for me, but I didn't even have a way to speak it. And I was looking for maybe a magic pill will fix me. And also there was the promise that only that way, because I cannot work, only that way will be studies, which I love to study. Yeah, so I almost convinced psychiatrists that I'm mentally ill. Okay? And if you are the patient, then you need to look. Was there a time in your life where you were looking for the magic pill? We were looking for this, we were looking for that, because you couldn't deal with this anymore. And what could you do? Make a revolution. Okay, I happen to have Uranus in my 10th house, unfortunately, or fortunately, unfortunately, and unfortunately, this is my career. So, a revolution. And I do even astrology. You see, even when I do astrology, it's at the time where they try to standardize astrology, and I have to rebel that. And so the theme of rebellion with Uranus for me is not being fully curated with astrology either, okay? I don't manage to be like one of the pack, even when I do astrology, which is what I guess I came here to do in terms of career at least. So yes, any other themes? So any other things that come up is psychic attack, energy, you know, if you can call it psychotic and it's not psychotic and all of that. So again, compassion is needed at every turn, and compassion to yourself as well. With Neptune especially, because Neptune can you feel like a shame, deep shame, all these things that are hidden, unconscious shame, unconscious blame. So compassion is needed because sometimes you could be projecting on someone unconscious blame. Okay, and for example, when I was in a Me Too case, then with sexual harassment, first you're not aware, then you try to heal. You think, okay, expression, sex chakra, throat chakra, and then there is like all this like you're being projected shame and blame, and what you want to do is kind of like not to project it back, but to end it, to break through this. But there is still unconscious shame, unconscious. So your actions, your words, they still perpetuate this. And this was also a time where I began to practice compassion. And funnily enough, the connection with my father at the time was improved. I kid you not. Yes, it wasn't my father who was doing this. No, but it's very interesting. I just think about this. So take all of these things, meditate on them. It might be useful for you. Ascendant Virgo. So, Ascendant Virgo, for you, Pisces is the 7th. Taurus is the 9th, and Capricorn is the 5th. So for you, you are dealing with all these Neptune complexes in the 7th house. And here, very much like what I said to the previous ascendants, here you could be dealing with a spouse. That is also a romantic partner. So on the one hand, you are definitely in a situation where you can have the actual love that turns you on because your 9th house, your 5th house, and your 7th house are lit. Okay? So you could actually find the person. I said it in previous videos. Okay, 50 is our romance, our joy, our fun, our creative projects. 7 is commitment, and 9 is our worldview, spiritual growth, traveling, higher studies. Okay, this is like really, really potent time for you. That being said, Neptune is still in your 7th house. So issues of illusion and disillusionment can come around. So you meet the love of your life, and you're also disillusioned by them. Okay? So this Prince Charming, Princess Charming, and you're like, I'm not a person who is easily charmed, but this person turns me on in ways I cannot even begin to. And then you begin to project all these ideals onto them. This has been ongoing for you. I don't even remember, like 90 something, like in 90 something, like 90,000, I don't know. Or was it the 20, or was it that was probably the Aquarius. I think it was the 2010, 12, something like this. Something like this. I don't know. So this has so you understand, this is more than a decade. This is for sure. It's more than a decade for you, more than a decade and a half even. And this has been the way that you have been doing relationships. When I say astrology explained more to me than psychology, I mean this, because if you have Neptune in your 7th house, you're not necessarily codependent. When Neptune turns into Aries, it's gonna be completely different. Okay, it's gonna take another house. When Neptune was in your 6th house, you're not codependent. Unless you have Neptune natally in your 7th house, you're not codependent, okay? Neptune is just going through your 7th house. You're having an experience of boundaryless relations or extreme isolation and loneliness even in a relation, or because of having no relation, while Neptune is in your 7th house. So while the teachings about codependency can be somewhat useful, to diagnose you as a person who is codependent, I think would be misjudging you. Yes, maybe you learn a lot about codependency, but there is also, if you've been going to therapy for this, then this is a very big issue for you, because you have been going to therapy, let's say for your relationships, might be more relevant to the previous ascendant, but like you're expecting results and your therapist expects results, and they could think that you, or your partner could think that you are not doing anything to recover, because you've been there for a decade, you've been dealing with this on and off, and you've made no progress, of course, because Neptune is still in your freaking seventh house. It's not going to move out, as Neptune is not going to. Neptune is dissonance, it's boundaryless, it's paradoxes, is the reality that is a dream, the dream that is a reality. And if there is addiction, it is because there are things to process, some usually grief or loss, that are that deep. It is just so, and it's the passage of life. So first thing, you are not to blame for what you're going through in relationships. And even if you have this fated ideation and evaluation, you are not borderline, okay, or whatever, you know. And it doesn't matter, we can put a million names. There's no point to put a tag on your personality if we cannot tend, if it doesn't help you to radically accept yourself and heal. But if you put a tag of, let's say, borderline on your personality, and this becomes like your identity, then that can make it difficult for you to heal, because this Neptune is going to go over the seventh and leave the seventh and go to the eighth. And now what Saturn's doing is giving you a reality check. But this reality check can only be quite partial because Neptune is still here. The dream is necessary, the dissociation is necessary. And so what you must take into consideration if you start a relationship, you want the benefic aspects to Neptune, you want the trine, you want the sextile. If you see the square or the opposition, which you could be seeing right now because Neptune is opposing your ascendant by sign, this could mean that you might in the future be very disillusioned with each other. And so while you actually could meet the one, this Neptune is right now opposing your ascendant. So what you need to make sure, what is this partner bringing? Okay, I, for example, in Pisces ascendant, I have Juno opposing Neptune. So you see, this is a problem. Juno is the spouse. And so I can tend to have this ideation and evaluation around spousal relation, which take a lot of time to go through. Yes, I was not married, but it's something that can happen. And so you need to pay attention, what is the natal chart of the other person bringing? Yes, so if you have this and then you go, let's say, with a person like me, then you already are having two aspects. One is Neptune transiting your ascendant, and the other is this partner bringing this opposition to Neptune with their Juno, okay? So you can be disillusioned with each other. It's just life. On the other hand, if this person is bringing favorable aspects to Neptune, and usually Saturn, for example, I would need Saturn with someone with favorable aspects to Neptune. Okay? So favorable aspects to Neptune, you have to check Pluto as well, because the sextile, sometimes the sextile will be the square to the other. Then a mixture of like a sextile, a trine to Neptune and Pluto, and the composite and in the synastry and in the natal chart of a partner, or if you natally have Neptune trine in your ascendant, Neptune sextile in your ascendant, okay? that can bring you, I have Neptune square in my midheaven, that can bring you a more, why I say assimilation, assimilation. That's the bloodlines issue. Yes, that can bring you a more, how should I say it, easy transit of Neptune. You could still be having this disillusionment, but it could be like the Beyonce song, like everything I thought you never were, and nothing like I thought you could have been, but you still live inside of me, and so on and so forth. Because this is Neptune. Okay, I haven't seen her chart, but this is absolutely a Neptune thing to do. And when you're going through this, when you're at it, it's a wave. It's like a wave. It's a bit like a tsunami, yes, but it's a wave. And a wave, it takes you in, and then it will take you out. You go with the wave, it takes you in, and then it will take you out. When I was having Pluto square in my Mercury, which is the ruler of my seventh, and Neptune, which is still right now next to my ascendant, and I had a certain something came from the astral. I'm like, what is this? What is happening again? This because I see the astrology. I'm like, it's not the twin whatever. And I said, what can I do? I have to go. I have it allow it to swipe me in, and then it will take me out. Okay, you're going back to the shore. You're losing the shore and then going back to the shore. This is the transit for you. So your worldview perhaps will adjust as well. And don't try to rationalize through Neptune, okay? It's a wave. You go with the wave, and then you let the wave carry you back to the shore. It will. It's the nature of waves, okay? And that's just life, and this is just what it is. And you don't try to rationalize this, because you are rational sign, but this does not have a rationale. It's or maybe study water dynamics, okay? Fluid dynamics. If you study fluid dynamics, maybe this can give you some, you will see a lot of beauty in your life. For me, I began to study fluid dynamics very lightly when, by painting, by looking at the fluid dynamics when I was going through this harsh Neptune Pluto. And this was very, very useful in ways that is not direct. It's just now as I give this advice to you, I remember. Ascendant Libra. So for you, Ascendant Libra, Pisces is your 6th house, Taurus your 8th, and Capricorn your 4th. Okay, 6th house. So 6th house, usually 6th house, when it talks about enemies, then it's about open enemies, like at work or colleagues or something. And Neptune can make something that is out in the open seem hidden. So a person could outright come to you and say, I hate your guts, and you think they're just joking. And they absolutely mean it. Now, Neptune, it can tend to, you're suddenly dealing with, and for you it can mean when a person tells me who they are, I should believe them, okay? But it can absolutely be the case where you are thinking that the person is your enemy, and they're your pet, like they absolutely not. Now, if you have a business and you have employees, then, the 8th house is Taurus here, so, and Jupiter is in Taurus. You need to check if your accountant is maybe doing some monkey business. And if you are doing monkey business, then your accountant might be whistleblowing on you, or one of your employees might be whistleblowing on you, because Neptune is leaking information, okay? Leaking teachings. But in case you are not corrupt, then This can be, and when it comes to your health, your physical health, so what you do for your physical health, or maybe you're like this situation where you look for the magic pill. The cause can have to do with addiction, um, and may require a more holistic approach, but also holistic approach. There is some essence in it, and there are some things that you need to add to it. So there are those things that might be flipping your approach to, or wondering. For example, this can be you think you have. I will tell you something that happened to me when I was in academia. So a lot of personal examples today. I wonder about this. Very interesting. A lot of personal examples today. So when I was in academia, I thought I have a food problem, eating problem. And I went to the doctor and I said, please prescribe to me a diet. And he did, and I started buying the food and I started eating the food. It was not so easy. And then I realized that while I'm sort of okay if I taking vitamins with this sort of nutrition, I don't have enough money to buy food. So I wasn't having an eating disorder, I have a food disorder. I had a food disorder. I did not have enough food. I did not have enough money to buy food. So that's why I was trying to overcompensate. And this is why I go to the doctor and say, hey, the doctor, may you please prescribe to me something? So you could be having one such epiphany. It's like, no, your problem is not that you don't absorb vitamins, it's that the problem that you both need the healthy food, the healthy practice, the healthy vitamins, and what you do for a living may be not supportive of these habits. Okay? Neptune can be assisting in diagnosis. You might get a diagnosis, a new diagnosis of something. And it can have to do with your budget or with your traumas. Or you can understand that there is some sort of a cold hidden. Somebody was trying to do something in occultistic. But this, yeah, with this Taurus and Venus, I don't know. I don't think that that's necessarily the case because this Saturn is ruling your fifth and fourth. So unless it's some family member and there's some ancestral hogwash happening, then I don't think that is the case for you. It is more about the diagnosis. Okay, and if you have a pet, this could be a similar thing. You could be channeling your pet. When I was doing cat sittering for a friend, and her cat just went away, and then she channeled him, and eventually he was angry that she left, and she was angry at him, and I was like, please, I'm the cat sitter. I was like, please, just invite him in, tell him that you love him, and eventually he told her when he's returning, and I heard a mew at the door, but I wasn't sure, and then I checked, and it was him at pretty much the same hour that he said he was going to return. And she also diagnosed the ailment of one of her cats. You could be doing such thing, or such a thing can happen around this time. Hopefully it's not like about an ailment. But even if you could be diagnosing the correct ailment, like one of these changes of face can happen, because this could be more like a connection of a psychic sense with the 8th house. So it can be depth, it can be trauma, it can be connection from that sort. Or you could be giving birth, which can also be, and if you are giving birth, you might be in the situation where the doctors tell you need this test, you need that test, we need this labor, we need that labor, and you say, oh, fuck it, and you turn out right. Okay, so they could be misdiagnosing something, or they could be like overly cautious. Also, you might discover something about the corruption of medicine, how it affects your life. Just today I was listening to someone who talked about vitamin D, okay? Because now we're entering winter. I live next to the equator, it's not that bad, but we still take supplements. I was looking how to take, with what vitamins, can it K with that. And I was watching this video. On this video, this person speaks about vitamin D, and he's a dermatologist, and he talks about the corruption in medicines, where doctors would say to a person, this is cancer or this is not cancer, because if you say it is cancer, then it is covered, the medical procedure is covered, and if you say it's not cancer, then it's not covered. So many things that are being diagnosed as cancer so that the medical insurance will cover them. Okay? So that can be a simple thing about taking vitamin D and leading to this big conversation. So if somebody, let's say, diagnoses you, God forbid, with skin cancer or something like that, it might be that you don't have skin cancer, it's just that your doctor wants you to have the coverage, and sometimes they're not even able to tell you. But if you go into certain procedures, then this can also be corruption. Downright so. I don't have anything smart to say about how to identify, because I don't know. But yes, it's really interesting. Ascendant Scorpio. Pisces is your 5th house, Taurus your 7th, and the Capricorn your 3rd. So, with you, if it is to do, it can be to do with creative project with children, and with partner, and something in your neighborhood or your siblings. So again, if you're giving birth and it's like your new child, then it could be like a sibling assists you with the birth, and then your partner is there. But where's the Neptune thing? So if it's like the connection with your children, this one can be is very important to understand, because here your child could be experiencing this. And children of Pisces, watch my videos about Pisces. Okay, watch my videos about Pisces. And if it is children, then the child basically is a Pisces child. And if they are majorly Pisces, this is just the weather, it's not bombs. In case you heard that. So it's just, there's a thunderstorm while there is a war. And yes, and I have to calm my cats here. So, what I have to say about this is, if you have a Pisces child and you have the highly Piscean, then they are not meant for industrialized society. Okay, you remember Charlie Chaplin in Modern Times? Look it up. Modern Times, Charlie Chaplin. There's this strange caricature of Chaplin going crazy within the machine, and how he experienced the industrialization. This is pretty much your average Pisces, except that it is not usually yielding a happy ending. So your job as a parent is to, in as much as you can, create the environment where this child is feeling accepted, and let go of the expectation that this child will become Saturnian. Okay, they're not Saturnian. They're not. The only way they can be Saturnian is under a tune. So I am saying this. You don't want to lose a child. And not everything is in your hands. But what is in your hand is to not try to make them fit into some sort of structure that they were not meant to be in. Okay, when you take a fish out of the water, it stops breathing. Okay, after a while, it just stops being alive. Okay, this is something you do when you want to eat a fish, not to save its life. So I am reminding you, if this is you, the parent, not to go there. If this is you, the creatress or creator, then I'm reminding to you that the creative process is not a suicide mission. Okay, so this can be perhaps more of a process where you actually get something out of your hand that is substantial, whether you write a book or do something. But here the ruler is kind of like with your partner. You could be doing something with your partner, or it could be recording something or painting something, or doing a creative project, or even doing a creative project in the neighborhood with your partner. And that could be one of the best manifestations because it takes time, it takes dedication, but it's also creative. And it gives the Pisces a place to be a Pisces, okay? Which is what you need. Now, if this is a romantic partner, if you in any way expect him or her or them to be mature, to be structured, to do Saturn, it's like, hey, if you mature up, then maybe we commit. They will mature up to the grave. Okay, so this is where you could lose a partner in that way. Um, and if this is your partner, or your partner is showing or going through this because the ruler is in his seventh, then you must understand they will not become mature. They will not just see the reasoning behind being Saturnian and adopt this. What they are very likely to do is to fall apart, to fall into a crisis, to fall ill, or God forbid, to unalive themselves. Okay, so neither of this is good. So this is where you could be codependent on them, and there could be some addiction in regarding to your sensual affairs, erotic or romantic affairs, where you are codependent on them not being codependent. Okay? Or you try to heal them, or if I will heal this person, they can be, or if I will marry this person, they will heal. They won't. Okay? Or if I will have a baby to this person, our relationship will heal. And if it hasn't by now, sometimes these things do happen, but in many cases they do not. And now you will have a child to deal with. But this sometimes is fated, because sometimes this was the only person that you were ready to bring a child with, and they were not Saturnian, and the child is not Saturnian either. So were you disillusioned maybe with your partner, you feel like I'm all alone, I'm growing two children, you also wanted a child, and you also love your child, and maybe that was the only way that you would bring it to the world. So there's also compassion, and there is also mercy and forgiveness that's involved, if that's the case. Sagittarius. Well, Pisces is your fourth house. Taurus, your sixth, and Capricorn, your second. Well, this time you might be trying to make money with a family member, or to make money from home. And it has its pros and cons. Okay, might be successful, but now let's see, maybe you're a YouTuber and you've made videos from your home, and now they went viral. Now everybody knows where you freaking live. So the other Jupiterian ascendant. Okay, this can be a problem. So Neptune here is also about the idea of a home. Okay, it doesn't mean you are a refugee or something like that, although this could, like, maybe you are, and this is why you're reading this, but Neptune is your home. It can be your home life or your upbringing, but also the actual house that you are living in. And if this is the case for you, then you're gonna need to conceptualize a home and to go through what Neptune shows you. Okay? Or the relation between your job, yes, Baba, and the house that you are living in. Yes, my cat is so curious about these flashing lights and everything, and she's creeped out and she has looks that are downright creepy. It's okay, just a walk. Yeah, you might, or sixth house is also pets, so you might have a pet at home. But here with Neptune, because it governs all these things, like maybe you're doing psychedelics at home. Maybe you're growing psychedelics at home. Okay? Hopefully you don't have a home business or family business. It's like a crime family or so. But other than this, when you try to look at what your cat is looking at, you are in for a journey. When there's a thunderstorm, and there are no thunders, and there are no flashing lights, and the cat is just looking everywhere. Okay? Hello. Hello. Yeah? Yeah. That yawn. That yawn. Yes, Livia. I think it went. Yeah. So, granted that you're not like having a crime family and this is the issue, maybe you're feeling disillusioned or having ideation disillusionment regarding your upbringing, your home, your family, the actual house that you are living in, and the relation to that, to like the work that you do or your pet. Maybe perhaps you have been having a pet, not like you or anything like that, that has been undercover, and now your landlord, Saturn, okay, comes in and sees that pet. And now both of you are in for a conversation. You need to be compassionate. So this is just something that can go many ways. But with Neptune, you need to understand what if there were lies, if there were hidden truths, if there were leaking things, informations, energies at home, it maybe affected your health or your income. Maybe you spend money, maybe you spend money where you're helping somebody to return a loan and you're just over giving with your income. And then here again, if you cannot help, it's not about judging them. It's about understanding that you need to set boundaries so that you will be. And it's also understanding where, to take the responsibility, where perhaps are you fearing to deal with something. And also be compassionate because there's a reason that you're fearing to deal with that. Okay? An example that comes in mind that may play a role for you, when I was in academia, actually the person that later will have that very unpleasant experience with, they were talking about, the third degree and so on, the second degree. And they said, well, I live, my parent is here and so on. And they told me, you see, when my mother was alive, I was also afraid to do the PhD outside, like abroad, and to leave and so on and so forth. But you must do this because I understand that I was also afraid of life. And I find this to be a very authentic, like this is very true, very authentic thing. And I am saying this to you because something like this may be involving, okay? Perhaps you are not getting to the world, but also after I was Me Too veteran, not only, it was not just the problem that he was hurting me, because he's just one person. It is a structure. And I understood that if I would go, and I was actually listening to him, I was actually saving money to go and to study and to do this and to apply, and I began to apply to places. But I began to understand what it actually means in practice. I understood that my fear, it was not like I'm afraid of life, it was like this is genuinely unsafe. This is genuinely unsafe. And I saw this when the academia was my workplace and was my grant for housing and was my friends and was my meaning of life. And then when I was Me Too veteran, it all crumbled. So in a way, this person that, yes, he was playing a part that, yes, violating boundaries, but also definitely there was this issue where the academia was everything to me, and that needed to change. Because even though I was staying in Israel, I was still going through the path of those risks abroad, where the academia is all you have, and you don't have there, you don't have permit outside of there, you don't have work outside of there, you don't have anything outside of there. Like I was kind of like relying on that to be my life path. Okay, it took so much power over my life, because before that I was not getting along at work. This is very interesting. We are both ruled. I am Pisces ascendant. You are Sag ascendant, but I see the past life path here is something in different houses, but I see the life path here is playing some important role. So you need to see, do you need to listen to that advice of like, don't be afraid of life, go ahead, do something, or is it that there is something genuine, and you might discover that yes, there is something genuine here. There is something genuine here, but sometimes it's about doing the steps towards your dreams, and then whatever needs to unravel itself, it does. Because I only discovered this as I was applying to universities abroad, as I was taking the steps, and also very unhealthy steps. Okay, I was taking amphetamines, and I stopped eating so that I will have money to apply or for the flight ticket. Because academia was all that much for me, and then it broke down, and it broke down with the person that was supposedly, not supposedly, that was in the beginning supporting me growing up and making something in life. Okay, so you see how devastating this must have been for both of us in this situation. And this is why I'm saying to you, there's a reason why something is that difficult. Compassion is needed. Maybe some tremendous change is needed. I don't know. Yes, but this is important. Capricorn ascendant. Capricorn ascendant Pisces is your third house. A Taurus would be your fifth house, and Pluto is in your first. You're dealing with something to do with siblings or neighbors, or something to do with your daily routines, or your car, okay? Because third house is transportation, or your transportation, how you go about in the world. My cats go in places that are just downright scary. So they're like curious about the storm, but they're also shocked about this. And I'm like, please don't jump from here. Yes. Yeah, thank you. That was edgy. And so Neptune is also about surrendering something. And Saturn is kind of reminding you little by little how something is being growing outdated. If you're used to traveling by bus and you don't have driving license like me, okay, then Saturn is slowly but gently but surely pushing you to understand that you really need to do a driving license. Okay? If you're reliant on somebody to transport you from place to place. Yes? If you are having a car and there is something that what Saturn is trying to show you, dear this car, what it can do, what it cannot do. Okay? With Jupiter retrograde, in general, something can go with the way, with the transportation, or with the neighborhood, or with the neighbors as well. Okay? And Saturn's trying to show you something here is outdated. Saturn is ruling you, your body. So your body is asking for some new means of communication, some new means of transportation, some new means of schedule and daily routine. If this is your business, your body is basically asking you to do things differently. Neptune is going to bring about a change of phase where you either lose something and you have to make the changes, or with your body you might be losing some ability to do with your body. Okay, you need to stay safe as much as you can, but with Neptune there is surrender, there is faithfulness, there's always reasoning to things. Okay, if you are only driving the car by yourself, there's somebody, not my parents, not on my bloodline family, that I know that they would always be in the driver's seat. Okay, they would always be in the driver's seat. And they couldn't even sail on a boat because they would get nauseous. And there is a good thing about being in the driver's seat, so doing an actual driving license. Doing a driving license is good. Okay? And by the way, I was afraid to be in the driver's seat because I'm Pisces ascendant and I'm a dreamer. And while I like driving in a place where it allows for driving. So I said, if I will do it, I will do it in the United States, or like a place where it's not so crazy and you can go there and you can do it more easily. And I don't like bureaucracy. Saturn is my out of sect malefic. So, this is winter. Yes. But and you will see that this is a certain polarity here, where if you are the person who's always on the driver's seat, and with the Capricorn you might be, okay, you can see how now you might lose the ability to be on the driver's seat. For some reason, maybe your license, maybe something you did, something is not even characteristic to you, and that can expose how now somebody else has to drive, and again you're dealing with something. Okay? And this could be the driver's seat of your life, or this could be something around your neighborhood. On the other hand, it can be if you are the type of person like, I always take public transportation anywhere, and this and that, and suddenly there is no public transportation, and you need to go somewhere. And now you must do driving license. So there's a certain loss that is fated that puts you on this. Or maybe you have a business and it's not registered yet. Now you have to register it. or you have a certain loss. Maybe now you've been served and you need to register it, and there's kind of like a debt, but this debt will help you grow your business actually, because now you're like, okay, we're through this, now I'm registering and I have a little bit of debt, so I have to do it. So it could be about the driving license, about debt, to do with the business. If it's about the language, or maybe you are living, if you've moved a country or something like this, and you have the nationality by language. Okay, for example, in Netherlands, we have nationality, you have to do a language test. If you are not by the parent, then you have to take a language test. And so might be you're taking language test, but it can be that you have been ignoring this, or if you've been putting this away, and now like you have to take this language test or you will lose your nationality. But the gain is that you learn the language and then you can get a permit to open a business or driving license in this country, okay? Something like this. So communication, driving license, and there's with Neptune there's a certain fated laws. Taurus is your fifth house, so it can be if it is driving license, like now your child has to drive, okay, and it can be that your child does not have driving license, okay, with this one. Or if you have been only taking public transportation, it could be something with your child that will prompt this. Like something the child has, something happens to the child, you have to take them to hospital, and then you would have a neighbor. Okay, when I was young, you had neighbors taking me to hospital just because my parent was traumatized. He had a driving license, but it can be something like this, like you need to check the child somewhere, and I have to rely on the neighbors. But the funny thing for me is something maybe will be relevant to you, is that those neighbors were a gay, two lesbian women, gay couple, and my parent was very very anxious of LGBTQ. Okay, and my own gender is quite weird, so you see how fated this was, that these two people that were gay, they were driving her child when I had an injury in the leg, by the way, which is spicy. So very interesting now that I think about this. Anything other third house? Well, I said your neighbors, your siblings, sounds like your siblings and your child. Siblings and your child, or your child is a sibling. Or it can be like you were having an argument or some restriction by to do younger brother, older sister, or something like that, and your child perpetuates this thing. Okay, or something maybe you didn't like, and now your child, because Saturn is karma. It's like now you have to deal with this. Okay. Ascendant Aquarius. Neptune is going direct in your second house. Taurus is your fourth house, and Capricorn is your 12th house. So second house, if you've been spending money on drugs, prescribed or not, you might, like this might, you could be one of the cases where you want to sleep at home, but the medication you take for the sleep is missing, or something like this. You want to make money from home. You could be dealing with the standardization of the vocational issue, whether it's holistic medicine or astrology. Okay, there's something going direct now. So maybe you're getting standardization, maybe you're getting a certificate, and you said, I will deal with this, I will learn a certificate, and then they said this certificate amounts to nothing. We don't accept this certificate. You just cannot do this. Okay? So this could be about your vocation, the way that you have been trying to deal with whatever restrictions Saturn is putting in your second house. But you have to understand something holistic in there. With Neptune, there always is. Okay? If you have been born to do something creative and you try to fit it into something practical, this is maybe what had happened to me in the beginning with astrology, because I began to give readings. And I enjoy them a lot, but they have a certain place in my life, and creativity has the grander place in my life, which is true. It's something that is needed to be done. And in this situation, what was, ending up happening is that I ran into this person who was doing something good against, like forced hospitalization in psychiatry, but they were saying psychology and astrology is the same, and they are blocking the ability of astrologers to receive visibility. So I'm looking at this from a transcendental point of view, saying yes, because I've turned to astrology as a safety net, as a place where I can give a reading and I don't have to deal now with how am I making money as a creatress in a world that is going more AI, which is yet another thing. So if this is something that happens to you on a vocational level, there's probably something creative that you need to do. Jupiter is going through your fourth, so it is affecting, if you're making money from home, it will somehow be impossible, or it will somehow, there is some loss to it, or hopefully not loss of a home or anything like that, but of course there are people to whom this is also one of the things that is happening. Or maybe you were working at a job or doing a vocation that maybe you liked it a lot, but you stuck to it because of security, and poof, that didn't give you even that. So now it can be like a very rude awakening that to support you did, maybe to support your mental health, the vocation you did to support your mental health is not proving supportive of your mental health, and you really need to do what you came here to do. Because you're going to look to your midheaven for more clues around this, and this is affecting your home life, your homes, the actual house that you're living in. Yes, it could be how you pay your bills, how you pay your rent, or even your property tax. Okay, even to own a house nowadays. And this is coming from the 12th for you, and from the 11th for you, the Saturn reality check. And you must be compassionate, because there has been a reason that you have not been dealing with this, as well as the cosmic time has arrived to tend to that. Ascendant Pisces. So for you, this is happening in your first house with the ruler in your third. And Capricorn in your 11th. So you are having a reality check as to how physically able you are to walk your talk when it comes to social agendas, to dreams and goals. How able are you to walk your talk? And you need to understand that when you're in those places where you're not so able to walk your talk, is because there is some grief that you are processing. Okay? Jupiter in your third house. So this is, you may have a certain loss around something to do with the neighbors, neighborhood. If it can also be cars or car, okay? or sibling, something like this, or close friend. They can pass away because of addiction. It can also happen. Okay, the issue of death can also, the actual death can also be an issue, but doesn't have to be. Can be a loss of a car. Okay, if you are in like car accident or accident like on the road, and I don't particularly see like accident is more Mars, but maybe slippery, like I don't know, because there is loss related to the third house. It could be transportation, or you also like Capricorn ascendant, your ability to drive. Okay, your ability to drive, your ability to fly, maybe, but here's a neighborhood, your ability to travel, some sort of a limitation or some sort of a loss to do with those things. Maybe you're processing that. Saturn is can be restricting your physical body from moving somewhere or around in the neighborhood. Okay. Now, for me, I had a neighbor that usually was made it from the beginning absolutely okay for me to go through her passage, and then today she said, please don't do this anymore. And I was like, okay, I will go from the other way around. And then I was going through the passage to grow the plants that I grow downstairs. So it can be something like this. It can be something as simple as that. A Neptune turning direct, like, I don't know, maybe they say you can't grow there anymore, the plants and so on. Okay, then I will have to find a new way to deal with it. Or winter is coming and it's restricted my movement around the neighborhood because it's rainy and I live in a higher place, so it's windy. And so it restricts the movement around the neighborhood just by the merit of this is winter. Okay? And I don't have a car. But for you, it can be also something as small as this, but it can be as big as well, because now something that has given you a lot of joy, there may be something else. It's you're losing one thing to refine that joy in a different way. If it's some sort of a physical ability that is lost, okay, for me, my ability to walk like for endless hours is a bit not existing right now. But I do have a cat that is on my lap, and wherever I go, there is always a cat running into me, and then it's a new joy that I have that allows me to contend with the loss. That is to walk for hours and 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 be so fit. And not in the sense of like the looks or attractiveness. It's just like the ability, the vitality. So there can be some sort of a loss there, which you just contend with. Okay. Ascendant Aries. Pisces is your 12th house, Taurus is your second. So for you, it can be retreat, or you might be finding yourself like, I really need a retreat, and then you spend money or you get into debt because of this retreat. And Capricorn is your 10th house, so maybe you go on a retreat and you need it, I don't know, because of work or something like that, and you have to spend some money or get in debt to get this retreat, so you have to spend some money. Or alternatively, something happens that you have to be secluded, so maybe you could be working from a hotel room. Oh my, in Israel we have a lot of evacuated, but not only like there, if you are like refugee or you've been evacuated or it's like by necessity or something like this, then you could be working right now from a hotel room, and this might be the case for you, or from hospital if you are, God forbid, this case can also be. or from jail, yes, but in any way you are making your income from a hotel room. It can also be a bedroom, but it doesn't mean you're a sex worker. It can mean doesn't necessarily. It can mean that like you're one of the people who evacuated, like you only have like your room, which is the bedroom, and now you're working from the bedroom. Okay? You know what I mean? If you live in one room apartment and all you have is the bedroom, then you are working from the bed. This is like a 12th house zone for you. Um, so you could be working from the bedroom and making money. You could actually be giving readings. So it is how you work from the bedroom, but you're not necessarily doing anything with sex work. It's just that this is the actual space. Okay, so Neptune can give you a little bit of a gain from your loss. So if you're hospitalized, if you're in a evacuated, then it can be to a hotel, and then you kind of like gain from there, you make money from there. Um, and so even if you go through a 12 house experience, there's some teaching that you do have to teach, or even a reading, and then you can absolutely, or your career lands you in some of these places, but you still gain from it. Let's say even your career, even if somebody tries, like what they did to that person who was fighting against like forced hospitalization, they tried to hospitalize her, and she had a publicity business. Okay, so you're doing management of artists and publicity, okay, but basically more the advertisement than actually managing the artists. And so people try to forcibly hospitalize her. So it and even from there, then she kind of huge betrayal, but she went through and got deeper strength to the life, and she's kind of like invincible. So she was kind of like her loss was her gain. Now it's like her life mission to fight these things. She's blind to the fact that the labor market is what causes this. Even though she was betrayed in the labor market, she still doesn't get it. But you could be in such situation, even if it is such extreme situation, your loss is your gain, because now you're doing something that is actually giving you wealth, giving you money, or providing you with a skill or something important to your life. Ascendant Taurus. Pisces is 11th house, Jupiter is in your first, and Pluto is in your 9th house. So, the way your worldview has been restricting your agenda, your dreams, your goals, is about to have a big explosive bubble bust. Okay, so the good thing is you about to bubble bust some limiting belief. The difficulty is that there can be a loss crisis attached to this loss of this limiting belief. Okay, you're not losing this limiting belief because you just ran into abundance. You're losing this limiting belief because there is some loss. It's like, think about pragmatics, like believing in this belief has led me to, and then poof, okay, that. But the gain is that you get more, you're revivifying your life path, your body, your appearance. Yes, your ruler is now in Scorpio in detriment, but in your 7th house. Okay, it's your 7th house. That Venus's detriment there is not her fault. If she's going through she's doing her best. She's going through your 7th house. And even knowing this, okay, even knowing this is like, oh, my relationship problems, so I tend to attract these partners, I tend to attract, it's like, my 7th house is Scorpio, this is what it is, now how do we make the best of it? Okay, I tend to attract the exact opposite of the peace that I desire. Now, how do we make the best of it? And then you see also the gift of it, and you're more able to see that maybe you've been limiting yourself in regards to relations, but also to your dreams and goals here. Your worldview affecting your dreams and goals, your social agenda, and then poof, the bubble bursts. There's Neptune going direct, it's like poof, the bubble bursts. For example, if I think about this person that I was talking about, that she owned this like big publicity office, and so was married, and then she became more successful, and then people tried to hospitalize her. They weren't successful in doing so, and she even took Seroquel. Okay, she openly speaks about this. It's not a private conversation. And she took this drug. Now she's working for a pizza place, and what she doesn't know is that, I'm not saying the place that she works, but it can be something like this, because I remember a conversation, then I cut contact. And this pertains to social agenda. I don't have her chart. And when the reason she's against psychiatrists is basically like a drug cartel. But the thing is, she went from one drug cartel that oppressed her, the places that are hiding cartel, like when a cartel wants to register itself as a legitimate business, then the most notable business that they go undercover as is pizza. I hope this is not the case for her, but this could be like a bubble burst. Like, hey, she was arguing with me, you need to work in a real job, and I'm like, come on. If we don't want drug cartels, and those people, you will work there as usual person. After your shift, they will do the monkey business. Now, when you have a husband, when you have children, you won't be touched. You have a family, you won't be touched. But some other people will, and you will not even know about it. You live in a bubble. So there's a bubble burst here. Neptune going direct and beat this bubble burst, and continues to the reflection of Jupiter. So you could be finding out that you are fighting against one drug cartel, as in your own workplace, where you say to people, work in a real job, working at this, working at that, and you sell the pizza, then you can find out that your business is a drug cartel. And unfortunately, she lives in a city where it's quite, because I was asking myself, even around the business, let's say I would want to sell tomatoes, like she said. I'm growing tomatoes. Let's say I would want to sell tomatoes. There is, even if there wasn't a word, there is the protection. Okay, so they ask for business protection. Yes. Also municipalities, they ask protection. And so I don't remember, I think one of the time I said, what about protection? What about how will I defend my business? If I sell like tomatoes or something like this, how will I defend my business? Because I will have to pay protection. I was wondering about this piece of place, like how do they deal with protection? They could be drug cartels. So it's either one or the other, but there's some bubble burst that's going in your life right now. And it's pertaining your social agenda. This is why I was thinking about, I don't know anything about her chart, not the sun, moon, nothing. But this is why I was thinking about this person immediately, because there is some social agenda that you're doing, and there's just something hidden. That's a bubble burst. Okay? It's a bubble burst for you. It's like, hey, right around your block, right around your life path, there's a dissonance that you're not dealing with. And this Capricorn is your worldview. So some restricting, limiting belief that you have then makes you lose the agenda, the social agenda that you're aiming to, or your dreams and goals that you're aiming to. And this loss pertains to your ascendant. Now Venus is in your 7th house. You lost a partner because of this. My God, she could be ascendant Taurus. I don't know. But you lost a partner because of this. Or there's some loss in the relation with your partner because of this. Yes. I don't know. Ascendant Gemini. This has been going on for some. So Ascendant Gemini for you. Pisces is your 10th house. And Capricorn is the 8th house, with Taurus your 12th. 10, 12, and 8. When those are being activated together, you know it's up to no good. So you could get in a promotion that lends you a little bit of a mental crisis. It can be the crisis of success as well, by the way. It can be like the expectations versus the reality of being successful. Or if you were too cocky, then it can be the other way around. But this can be where your position lands you, hopefully not with like time in jail, but now all of this together, if you have been doing such work, like your career is around, with the 8 and 12 is like exchanging money for bedroom affairs, then you really need to understand what does your career serve for you, because this restriction is coming from your 8th house. So there's some limitation around either trauma or either wealth or debt or something like this. And if you're listening to this and you're like sex worker or something, so I think you are now scheduled to look at a deeper layer there that could be regarding what career is to you, or if you have how traumas affect your career. Okay, it could be to any career, but because your 12 is, then I'm thinking what career of the 12. So you could be in touristic positions, or like working in a hotel, or working in a hospital, or working in jail, like ward in jail, or it could be sex worker, because it's the bedroom, you understand. And 8th house also is house where we can like exchange sex for money. If I think, no, yes, I would say it. If I think after academia, where they tried the Me Too, was basically like, I said, okay, I don't want to exchange sex for money. If I want to have sex, I want to enjoy sex and for it to be around sex. Then I went to therapy, to psychology, which is also 8th house, and he had the affair with me. Okay. So it's like eventually I got into exchanging a situation where money changes hands and there is sex, but I wasn't paying him for sex, you understand. He fell in love with me or something, or fell in love with me, I don't know. And he was getting to, I was thinking, what am I projecting in him, and so on. Then he was in the astrally projecting. But it was a funny situation, because I was like, I'm paying for therapy, not for this. But I see you think about the humor of the situation, where I was like, I don't want to be in such a situation of either side, and then I go to therapy, and then this is what happens. So this was very interesting. But the thing is that if you have such situation where money changes hands and sex is involved, then I want you to think about like your life. Okay, but also if it's another career, you could be working at a hotel, you could be working in jail, you could be working at hospital, and maybe some calling, maybe some, like, how is your intergenerational wealth, the shared assets with your partner, 8th house is things we swipe under the rug. How is this affecting you? Because you are scheduled to check how is this affecting my career and my mental health, which is also the 12th house. How's my career affecting my mental health? and maybe you think to save money, but you could be dealing with like addiction because of work, because Neptune, or addicted to work. You could be workaholic. Okay. But this thing coming from the 8th to the 10th is for sure some issue of either debt or something you swept under the rug. And you have to be compassionate with yourself, because there's a reason you swept it under the rug. Okay? There's a reason. And this is where you need to see, okay, so how is this affecting my work? And it doesn't necessarily mean what I do for work. Okay? It means more how I do my work, how I do things, and it can also be your field or your career. If you think about when I became astrologer, then it was also due to certain traumas. Okay, I was in academia, but what happened to me and the signs that were explained in this were not in the matter realm, but were in the spirit realm. And I could not explain this in academia, and I said, okay, I need to learn more, like about channeling, about more ways to do science than before. It was also interesting, but then when I was by going to therapy, intuition did not help. Okay, it was beyond intuition, and so there was other things, structure and so on and so forth, and understanding that both intuition and cognition are limited in perception. So you could be experiencing this from a situation where what prompted me to do this work is some sort of a traumatic experience, which was for me with astrology. To do this as work, okay, to make money for this, it came following trauma, like all of my relationships and all of this, and in therapy it didn't work, and I went to all like therapies and so on, and then my therapist had an affair with me, and it was also deadly later. So I said, nothing explained this, and then I just looked at my chart. I'm like, okay, this is what it is. This is my chart. And then I gave it, I did not give astrology up, because then just astrology became something different to me than it was when I was thinking, okay, maybe with astrology I will understand the transit and what this and what that. So I had to let go of something. And here with Neptune, you need to surrender something, and there is some loss regarding to your career, some disillusionment, and that's something you swiped under the rug, and it's affecting your mental health. But after you let go, then you have this reality check. Then the hidden blessings come in, because you begin to tend to those issues. So all my blessings to you, okay, for going through this path. And that's it. This is the 12 ascendants. These are the 12 ascendants. And we are again at ascendant Cancer. We just went through an entire cycle of ascendants, because this was 13 degrees, and then it became 12 degrees, and I'm like, now it's 12 degrees Leos. We literally went through an entire cycle of ascendants in this episode. So the ascendant was in Cancer, so I was caretaking for you a lot, and I gave a lot of personal examples, but as you see, it was more pertaining to something that's actually very personal to each and one of you. It was personal for me, and it was personal for you. So yes, it is Sol hour with the ascendant in Leo, and Sun in Sagittarius in the 5th house, and the midheaven on Jupiter. So I will post it right now.